Hello, everyone. Did you miss me? I feel like we're best friends by now, but there's always room for new friends. So if you're just joining us for the first time today, my name is Kira. It's so nice to know you. And welcome to our final, for now at least, episode of TYA, a part tea party, part talk show, where I get to sit down with today's latest and greatest TYA or Theater for Young Audiences professionals to talk about their past, present, and vision for the future of this industry. And of course, for our grand finale, we want to go out with a bang. So I invited none other than Broadway royalty, literally, to come and join us today. She is from my hometown of Elgin, Illinois, and she's graced the Great White Way in Mamma Mia and In the Heights, but you all probably know her best as the original Princess Jasmine in Disney's Aladdin on Broadway. Everyone, please welcome Courtney Reed.
Yeah! That was quite the intro. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Hi, you're from Elgin? How did I miss this? Or I didn't miss this. And then all of a sudden now I'm catching on again and reminded. You're from Elgin?
Yeah, I'm from Elgin. I grew up in South Elgin and then skipped over to the other side of the road to St. Charles, but that's where I grew up.
My gosh, that's crazy. And I'm in Elgin right now. I'm in my
Oh
sister's
my
childhood
goodness.
bedroom, as you can see with all these dolls. I'm like, my bedroom has been turned into a office space. I was like, great, thanks, mom and dad. Now I'm like sleeping in my sister's bedroom and I wake up and I'm like, where am I? Um, I'm not holding resentment, I swear. That's amazing. Yay, go E-Town.
Yay! Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm actually going back there this weekend with my roommates to go apple picking. So now everyone can stalk me because they know where I'll be.
My gosh, I want to go apple picking. That's such a good idea. Where do you go apple picking?
At Kuiper's
Kuiper.
Farm. Yeah, it's
Okay.
amazing. My neighbor is actually a beekeeper, and Kuiper's buys his honey to sell to everyone at their farm. So we love going to Kuiper's, A, to get his honeycomb, and B, for the apples.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to Kuiper's. It's a done deal.
There we
Yay!
go. Kuiper should sponsor us with the amount of time we're talking about them. Go to Kuiper's.
Exactly.
Amazing, amazing. So I thought that we'd start off today in classic TYA style by talking about your favorite kind of tea.
Oh my gosh, my favorite kind of tea is matcha. And it's so like it's a thing. I was obsessed with it and then I became super obsessed and it's really my favorite recipe of all time is from a place called Matcha Bar in New York City. Even though I really do love Cha Cha Matcha, but it's the cinnamon maple matcha latte with either almond milk or oat milk or coconut milk or macadamia milk, which is also really good. And it matcha is just like a concentrated green tea that you get the caffeine kick of like a coffee, but you don't get the crash. So I love it. Matcha is my favorite. What's your favorite?
Oh, that's a good question. For a while, and this is kind of a very theater major answer, but for a while, my favorite was Throat Coat.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
just because I drank it so often, and it's kind of controversial. Either my friends hate it or they love it. But I love Throat Coat. Now I'm a fan of Rooibos, which is what I've been drinking, I think, in every TYA episode. Um,
I love Rebos. I also love throat coat. That is like my savior when I'm feeling like that's my fave.
See, it's like your best friend. It helps you out. It tastes good. It's just amazing.
It's amazing.
Okay, well, to start off with the actual questions, I think as a performer myself, I think it's true to say that every actor has a moment when they decide that they want to pursue this art form professionally. And so, if you have one of those moments, what was it for you?
Well, I was in Children's Theater of Elgin. Did you ever do Children's Theater of CTE?
My friends did. I never got a chance to be in their productions, but I constantly saw them to support my
Oh,
friends.
so sweet. Well, I did CTE, Children's Theater of Elgin, forever when I was a kid, and I started at the age of 6, and then I went to as long as you can, like 17 or 15, 16, 17. And when I feel like I was like 12 or something, and actually being home was really funny looking back at my old journals. But I was cast as Annie and Annie, which I think was very progressive for the time, I was like, you guys go CTE. That was the moment that I felt like I knew and I had the courage that I could do it. And B, just knew I was standing up on that stage with my arm up held high with Sandy in my other arm singing Tomorrow. And it just felt like this is what I was meant to do. And so from that moment on, I think I never really questioned what I wanted to do. Yeah, that was a big moment for me.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Oh, I love that. It all starts with Annie.
I know.
Ah, that's amazing. I know my high
Thanks.
school did Annie, I think when I was a junior, and it was so much fun. I loved it very much.
Such a good show. It's a very like cliche show, but it's just so good.
Oh, it's a rite of passage show. Like you have to do Annie at some point.
1,000%. A thousand
Oh yeah,
percent.
yeah. And then this is normally the part of the interview where I ask why TYA, but that's kind of a complicated question when it comes to the acting perspective, simply because the show and the genre choose you as much as you choose the show slash genre. So instead, I'd love to ask, like, what went into the decision process to audition for Aladdin, and then what that audition process looked like, and also the moment that you were told that you were going to be Princess Jasmine on Broadway.
Oh my gosh. Well, this story is pretty crazy. I've had a lot of crazy stories, but this one is the craziest. So nobody knew that Aladdin was A, coming to Broadway, or B, was even in the works when I got the audition. It was a call. It was 5 girls auditioning for the very small intimate reading that Disney will usually put on when they're trying to like license a show or just hear things read out loud. They'll pull within the Disney family and have it read out loud in a studio. They don't have producers come in or anything because Disney is their own producers. And so it was 5 girls that auditioned. They didn't have anybody on their roster in order to play Jasmine. So I went in, I booked the reading, and it was so exciting because when we finished the reading, and Adam Jacobs was there, who ended up playing the original Aladdin, and Jonathan Freeman, who was the voice of Jafar in the film, he stood up the first day and he said something like, "Your Majesty." And we all gave him a standing ovation just because his voice was so eerily, the same as the voice that we grew up with listening to on the 1992 beloved film Aladdin, the animated film. And so it was just all very exciting. But they were just planning on licensing it to high schools because high schools had wanted a full version of the show. Anyway, the reading went so well that they decided they were going to take it out of town at the Fifth Avenue in Seattle and see how it would do. And after that, they had announced it was coming to Broadway. So I had been doing all of these workshops in between, and they never had fully announced that it was coming. And I get a call from Disney that week I knew which were the final callbacks for Broadway, and I didn't have to re-audition for the show. And they were calling. They said, "We would like for you to play Esmeralda in The Hunchback, another intimate reading. Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz will be there, but we're gonna fly in Michael Arden, and Michael Arden is this big director now. This is so crazy because I was like, hey, Michael, like pal, buddy." And so I thought that was my consolation prize. I thought they were just calling to say, like, listen, this is we're going to cast you as this in the regional version instead of you playing Jasmine. This is what I'm thinking. So I get a call from Disney on the day of happens to be a day of final callbacks, which I had heard rumors about. And they called. I missed their call, and it was Ann Court, who was one of the producers, and I called her back, and she's like, she's left a voicemail. She's nothing crazy. Just give me a call back anytime you're available. Call back, and she said, "Hey, Courtney, I just wanted to know if you'd like to be our Jasmine on Broadway." And I like started screaming on the streets. Like I was like people thought I was dying. She's like, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, "I'm so excited." Like, and she said, normally we'd call your agents first, but you've been a part of the Disney family for a long time, and we wanted you to hear it from us. And that just meant so much to me. So she's like, "So you should probably call your agents and tell them that you booked it." And so, yeah, I'll never forget where I was, how I felt, and how, it's like when you fall in love for the first time. You just walk around and you just see butterflies and sunshine, and it just, nothing can get you down. Yeah, that was the moment. That was a really long story to get to your answer, but to get to the answer of your question. But But yeah, that's it. That's the story.
Oh my goodness, that's the dream. Like, I feel like that is the dream of getting the call and, like, what that reaction would be. I feel like I would be right in your boat with, like, overwhelming screaming, shouts of joy, crying. I would
Yes.
probably cry.
Yeah, I think I was crying too. I was like screaming and crying. It was many years of, I guess it was a year, at least a year or two, or a year and a half, maybe. No, it was 2 years. Yeah, it was 2 years of waiting.
Wow.
So yeah, that was crazy. Because it was 2010 when I auditioned for the reading, and then when they announced that it was officially doing its second out of town, that was, oh no, maybe 3 years. That was 2013. So you can imagine, me holding on to this dream for like 3 years and like, it's finally coming true.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And as you
Crazy.
said, I mean, we grew up with these characters, and so I'm wondering what it was like portraying such a beloved and well-known character, and perhaps what it was like striking a balance between living up to what we know Jasmine to be and also bringing yourself to that character and like what new nuances you were able to explore in the rehearsal process.
Yeah, it's interesting to think that you do actually have a lot of freedom. I think that when in your mind, when you think, okay, I'm being cast in a role in a Broadway show and it's so iconic, they're going to be so strict about how you portray the character. And I think when you walk into the audition and you have that essence, I think they go, okay, I can trust in her to come up with her own choices and we can direct her. And so I was like, gosh, I have so much freedom here. This is pretty insane. So I couldn't get out of my mind a lot of Linda Larkin's line readings from the film. She voiced it, and Lea Salonga did the singing voice. And so it was hard to take that out of the equation, which I didn't want to because I wanted to honor the 1992 film, also bring a bit of me into it, which is impossible not to. You're playing a role, you're always going to bring a little bit of you into it. And I feel like I'm not so different from her that it kind of worked out in my favor, that I'm like, this kind of works for her because she is kind of she's she has a lot of, especially in the musical, she's got a lot of like funny moments where it's like honestly like the audience is laughing out loud, and a lot of it is her setting up a moment for somebody else, or her little quick whips back to sort of show Aladdin that we're on equal playing fields here. You're not going to one up me because I'm going to one up you every time. And I think I have been known to do that in the past with gentlemen. And so I think that that's just a fun little thing to add to it. And then just trusting in my director that he knew what he was doing. And Casey Nicola, the king of comedy, like this was Aladdin, the Broadway musical, but also a musical comedy. So you gotta like tap into those fun moments and hope the audience is like laughing with you. But yeah, that's it. That's all I did. I always felt like it was going to be harder to do, and you're just like, oh, you got to just trust in it. You just trust in it, and you trust what you're doing is good. And I think they trust in their actors that they're making the right decisions. And then you trust that, hey, the audience is laughing or the audience is awing. I think we're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, Alan Menken made a new song for Jasmine, These Palace Walls, right? Which
Mhm.
huge expansion for that character. That just seems remarkable. I don't know what the experience was like for you getting to explore that.
That was actually a whole other thing. These Palace Walls was an afterthought because they had a song called Call Me a Princess, which was originally written for the film, that didn't make it into the film because they had written her to be actually this like super bratty princess. And so it was like a very brassy song. Call me a princess, I don't care. Call me obsessed with nails and hair. And it was this whole song about how she was obsessed and how she told daddy what to do and she was a brat. And I think that they decided, okay, we can't write her to be like this. She's got to have a heart. And they ended up, writing her quite well. But I think she's one of the princesses out of all the Disney characters that is underwritten in a way because it's not a story about her, right? She might drive the plot and she might be the reason that Aladdin does everything that he does, right? Because he's trying to get her. But it's not about her. It's not, Ariel or Cinderella or Moana, any of these even new age princesses. So because she's a unique Disney princess in that way. But yeah, so oh no, what were you even talking about? I totally got off subject and realized I didn't remember what we were even talking about.
Yeah, of course, these palace walls and like that
Oh,
I
Palace
Want song.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, I get off on tangents. But yeah, these palace so Call Me a Princess was something that they had wanted to put back into the musical because how it was Howard Ashman's idea, and Alan Menken really, they were a dream team. And he was like, I want to honor a lot of these things, these concepts that Howard had before he died. And so they tried working that song into it so hard. Like they had her like become out like super bratty and to fend off the suitors and like put on an act. But that was the first that was the first time you were seeing Jasmine. So it just made her so unlikable. And so in the middle of the second out of town tryout in Toronto, um, the director, Casey Nicola, comes into my room. He's like, hey, Courtney, Alan's writing you a new song. This is just not working. Call Me a Princess is not working. We've tried everything. So you're going to rehearse that song during the day. You'll do Call Me Princess at night. And then we'll put Palace Walls into the show. And so I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, this is so stressful. They ended up doing different versions of Palace Walls. I had done a different version from even the one that we ended up doing in on Broadway. And I think even if we had more time, the song would be even more spectacular than it already is. But it really set her up as she needed an I Want song, and she finally got her I Want song. So I was happy with it, and then they came out with a live action film, and then she came out with Speechless. So I was like, unfair. I want to sing that song. So yeah, but it's a process. It's a process. And I was just along for the ride.
Mhm. Yeah, I know. I have sung these palace walls in the shower many a time.
No way.
So I'm channeling you, Courtney.
Yes, yes. That makes me
Yeah.
so happy.
Yeah, I feel like it's always so hard to having to make the decision to cut something you have tried to make work for so long.
I
But
know.
these amazing things come out of it, like a song like these Palace Walls. So sometimes you just got to do it and see what
Yeah,
happens.
it's true. It's true.
Yeah, and I know you were talking about how you got to bring a lot of yourself to the role of Princess Jasmine. And I also, at least in my experience, feel like as much as you bring to the character, you take a little bit of the character away with you after a process. And so I was wondering if that's true for you, what aspects of Princess Jasmine you feel you've taken away or you would aspire to take away into your own life?
Such a good question. I've actually never received that question ever, not once. I love that. Um, oh gosh, I learned a lot from her, especially from, playing that role for so long. Um, but one of the things that I will say that I do feel like she and I are very similar, but I think I learned even more from her is that she's rooted in kindness, and she is like of the people. You know what I mean? She leads with her heart and what she feels is right. So she's never like, we're just talking about Call Me a Princess, and she cares about nails, hair and nails and whatever. She doesn't care about those things. She really doesn't. She's a princess and she has to dress the part. It is what it is. But what she cares about um, is a person who is pure of heart, which is why when she meets Aladdin and she meets these other suitors who are coming to her every day when trying to own her, possess her, they just want her for her money, or they're trying to show off in a way that she doesn't care about money, she doesn't care about fancy things, she just cares about what's here. And I think that for me, and and when seeking a partner or when seeking a friendship, I look for that in people. And that's what attracts me to a person, is somebody that is pure of heart and leads with kindness. And so that's why I always do get a little bit like, when people talk about Jasmine as like, oh, she's very sassy and she's very, you could, if you wanted to, you could interpret her lines as like kind of the B word. Like people will be like, oh, she's kind of a B word. You know what I mean? Because she's so sassy and she's like, but that's actually not it. She's a strong female character that she just is, she's steadfast in her beliefs. She believes that you should marry for love. She doesn't believe in those old traditions, and she's going to stand up for it. And she's also going to like lead with her heart. Like she and her father fight because she loves her father so much, not because she hates him. You know what I mean? It's like she leads with her heart. And I think that that's what I love about her and playing her, and had, when I was playing her, and seeing, like people and how they react to her. And I think that she's a really, really good role model. So I took that along with me, and just I still carry that on. And I mean, I hope I still continue to carry that on. Yeah.
Oh no, Courtney. Can you hear me? You're frozen. Oh, okay,
Oh
you're back.
no. Okay. Yeah, you were frozen too for a second. Okay. I'm back. I'm back.
Cool. Okay, we're good. We're good. Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I love that idea of standing tall and speaking your mind, but speaking from your heart, and that being the key to that character, and also something that you took away. That's amazing. I love
Thank
that very much
you.
for you.
Thank
For any of
you.
us, really. Let's all speak from our hearts.
Totally.
Yeah. So, Playground, which is the big new works festival that my theater company, Purple Crayon Players, is putting up right now, is an opportunity for playwrights to develop a lot of new characters for the stage. And so, a question that I have is, what excites you about a character? Like, what types of characters or aspects of characters do you want to see more of, or what voices do you want to hear more of? That was kind of three like conglomerate questions, but
Yeah.
the idea.
Well, okay, so there's I guess there's many different answers to that question, because as an actor, you look at a role and you go, "Ooh, that would be challenging. I want to play that role." But in a non-selfish way, do I want to see characters that aren't as highly represented? I didn't have struggles in my career, and I don't want to say I had struggles. But if I did have any struggles, it's mainly that when I audition for roles, there aren't very many that are specifically my ethnicity. So my mom is Vietnamese, but she was born and raised in Thailand. And my father is he's American, but he has like English, French, and English, like as far as like ethnicity goes. But like he's from Iowa, he's American. So I come from a half and half situation where a lot of times when you are mixed, you come from a mixed race, people have a hard time placing you because they're like, well, you're not this enough and you're not that enough. And, you kind of look Latina, but you can't play Latina anymore and you can't do all these things. And something like, wow, I've auditioned probably thousands and thousands of times for roles. And not once on the breakdown, actually, no, once in my life did I audition for my actual ethnicity, which was a half Vietnamese girl who worked at a nail salon. And I was like, wow, how funny and cliche is this? Eventually, I'd love for our characters to not, unless it's specifically talking about race, I'd love for our characters to say, break down male, female, or, whichever gender, you identify. Um, I would love for it to not have to mean so much, because, I'd love for us all to look at each other as one, if that makes sense. This is like getting like super deep. But as selfishly, I'd love to play a character that was actually my own ethnicity, and something that didn't, you can look outside the box in some ways and not like pigeonhole people. Like if you happen to be like a beautiful, stunning Asian man, and you're cast in something that's other than, a math teacher, or like a guy who plays the violin, or a karate kid, something like that, where it's like really outside the box and doesn't fit into like a typical uh you know box of however we feel like is a stereotype.
Yeah.
um, I'd love that would excite me. That was so long. My answers are like the longest answers of life, and I'm so sorry. I'm like all of a sudden getting really deep.
Do not apologize. I love every second of it. I'm just
Oh my
gobbling it up.
god. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree completely with you, though. There are so many ways that our theater community needs to continue to grow, and I would like to think that this is a great opportunity for us to start doing those things, and developing those stories. I was talking with, I actually forget who I was talking with. I know I brought it up with Peter Brocious in our TYA episode, but this idea of when a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, it first like breaks down into goo inside its little cocoon, and then it becomes a butterfly, and then it, releases out into the world. So I like to think that now is a time where the theater industry can go back into that goo state and reconstruct itself, and then come back bigger and better than ever as a beautiful theater butterfly.
Yes, yes. That
Yeah.
would be amazing.
That's the hope. Um, Amazing. So next, I would love to hear about your experiences working on a show like Aladdin, where you're attracting and interacting with a lot more young people in your audience, as opposed to, say, working on Mamma Mia or working on In the Heights. What does that TYA aspect bring to the Broadway experience?
Yeah, well, a lot of times people are coming to see Aladdin and it's their first Broadway experience. And that, and it's not even, it's like it could range from kids to adults that are going on a family trip, and maybe their kids are in their 30s and really just loved the film, and they're bringing their parents along for the ride, and their parents were like, wow, I never watched this movie when you guys watched it growing up, and now look at this beautiful story about the takeaway from this story is, don't lie about who you are, love who you are, be true to yourself. And it has beautiful messages, and it's not just a message for kids, it's a message for everyone, for adults and grandparents and people of all ethnicities. It's like you can really identify with this show no matter where you're from or how old you are. And I think that was one of the things that I really loved about the show, is that people were coming to see it that wouldn't normally even come to see a Broadway show. And so that is so special, so special.
Yeah, yeah. I want to, so Aladdin was one of the first productions I saw on Broadway. It was probably among like the first five, somewhere in there.
No
Um,
way.
and I remember my parents let me choose the shows because I was like the big theater nerd of the family. And I put Aladdin on the list. My dad was like, we've watched that movie so many times. Like, do we need to see the stage production? And I'm like, yes, we do. We have to see the Broadway production. And we went. And Dad, if you're watching, hello, I'm going to call you out for a second. But after we went to the show, he was like, that was the most amazing Broadway show I've ever seen in my life. Like, he was talking about a standing ovation after Friend Like Me, and like all of the amazing things that happened in that production. He just couldn't stop gushing about, which I just loved, because a story that he thought he knew so well and could not engage with further, like, sparked so much excitement in him in a Broadway context, which I think is where you really see how it resonates not only with young audiences but with all audiences, and reigniting that kid inside all of us, and that hope and that passion and that love. And it's really just fantastic.
Oh my gosh, I love that story. I'm getting so emotional, Dad. I love that. I love that. And it's like, I think that we forget too, we can get lost in the, oh, we want to see something that's so poignant and so different and so, groundbreaking, that we forget that sometimes it's these simple things. And I would not say Aladdin is simple, because it's a huge production value, lots of money goes into it, and a lot of thought and a lot of preparation obviously went into the show, so much hard work. But it's like sometimes we just want to go to the theater and be happy and leave with like a beautiful takeaway, a beautiful message, and see something spectacular. And those are the moments that you think about, when the carpet, the carpet starts to fly and the set breaks away. Those theatrical moments, or a standing ovation, actually being there in a standing ovation in the middle of a show, there's nothing like a rush like that. And when I see these moments in theater, I just get overwhelmed with joy and excitement. And it could be as simple as her the cape flying and defying gravity, and all of those like sort of cliche moments that we know are coming, but we still get overly emotional when we see it. And that's what theater is all about, because you can't recreate that kind of thing in a movie, or that kind of feeling. You still get it in a film, but that you're seeing that, and only the people in the audience in that very moment is seeing that exact same thing just in that moment. And that's the beauty of it. It's just, we're so lucky. We're just lucky.
Yeah. It's a matter of connecting with human beings in lifetime, like not only on stage, but around you, which is such a unique experience that I love so much.
Totally,
And like
totally.
this idea of stories like Aladdin that we grew up with are like the foundations of who we are as human beings. Like we're developing who we are at that age along with those characters and those stories. So I feel like returning to a story like Aladdin is returning to those roots, which we all could use.
Oh my gosh, especially now. I wish we had live theater now. But like you're 100%, 1,000% like nail on the head with that. It's so true because those are the things that impact you for the rest of your life. You don't even realize it.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of the Broadway experience, it feels like no Broadway experience is quite complete without at least one crazy backstage or onstage story. So, do you have any such stories to share with us about Aladdin?
Oh my gosh, I have so many is the thing. So when I get this question, I'm always like, okay, going through a file in my brain of like all of the moments and what's like the best one. Um, one of the best ones I would have to say is, so I was on with an understudy. I don't even know why I said that because it doesn't really matter. Like as in like it's just kind of funny because he's a close pal of mine, and so every time I visualize this story I'm thinking about he and I together. But I was on with Jacob Dickey, and it was the scene in the marketplace where he comes and courts her and then takes her to his rooftop. And so there was something, this crazy noise in the theater, and it sounded like and it sounded like that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is there like somebody with a gun in here? Like it was so loud. And apparently something was happening with one of the lights where it was trying to shift a gel, and then it couldn't, and it got stuck, and it was like and I'm thinking, okay, they're going to stop the show because it's so loud, no one's listening to anything that's happening on stage, it's so distracting. And so surely once we finished the marketplace scene, which was so long, I'm thinking like this is the longest scene I've ever done because I can't even like hear myself think. We did the scene, nobody was in the audience was listening. I exit, and then we're supposed to go back on stage to do the scene into Million Miles Away, the song. And so we go off stage. That's usually when we get a swig of water, and the stage manager's back there like, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. I'm like, wait, you're not going to bring this like the curtain in, like nothing, because you can't, because the set pieces are too far downstage. You can't bring the curtain in. So we're like, oh gosh, we have to continue this scene. So finally we get to the point where we're about to sing, and I'm like, at least maybe the music is going to be louder than this. And of course, Jacob Dickey and I are just looking at each other, like saying the lines, like, I don't know what's going to happen. So we go to sing the song, and the music doesn't play. And so we're just looking at each other like, and we see the conductor, and he's like on the phone, like he was like on the phone. And we're like, surely they're going to stop the show. So we're just sitting on our rooftop, on Aladdin's rooftop, looking at each other in complete silence. And we start to like look like, we're like, do we like improv this song? Like it's a song. So what are we doing? Like, and then we just hear silence. Just silence. We look at each other. And I swear to you, this is, if you're the audience, I was like this, like just slowly trying to move my face upstage. I was like, if I can't see them, maybe they can't see me. And we're both looking at each other like, what do we do? It was the most awkward moment I've ever experienced ever on stage. And we hear silence in the audience because they're just looking at us like, what's happening? And all I want to do is get off stage. And I hear actually a guy go, Courtney Reed, like that in the audience. And then I hear, really great job, you guys. Really good job just pushing through. We're so proud of you. And then like everyone's like clapping for us, and we're just like like that. Finally, after all of that, get on there like, we've been having technical difficulties, please hold for da-da-da. And so we immediately run off the stage, and they start clapping for us. So then finally we get back on the stage and we start the song. Everyone's like, yes, just so happy. But it was so awkward and so terrible. I was like, why did you guys do that to us? Why did you just stop the show before we have to be like the most awkward ducks, like on stage, like what's happening? So that was probably like the worst. It's one of the worst. There's a lot of other ones, but they make for great stories.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, for sure. Wow. I love it took the audience breaking the fourth wall for you for
I
help to
know.
come. Um, that's
Oh
hilarious. Oh my
God.
goodness. I can't stop shaking my head. It keeps
I know. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh.
Wow, crazy.
Mhm.
Honestly, amazing stories though. I love listening to them.
They are
So
so
thank you.
fun. They're so fun. I love the backstage, on stage mishaps. Just so fun.
Mhm.
That's some of the best part of theater right there.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
And then speaking of theater, I know right now, particularly, is a very hard time for live theater. So I'm wondering, as an artist, how are you finding ways to persist? And how do you remind yourself why you're doing this and why you need to create?
Yeah, I feel like I've been really lucky because I've learned that I can still teach and have an outlet in that way and do things virtually, which has been phenomenal. And so I don't want to be like, cry me a river, because it's been really great. But I do find that I'm like really yearning to do the creative stuff again. And I think that most recently we did a virtual Airbnb concert. It was an Airbnb, but we partnered with Airbnb, me and the Broadway Princess Party, which is a concert that has been touring, the nation for several years now, and it's been so fun. And just being able to get together and even, sing harmonies, all of us together, and being able to do the show. And even though it's virtual and it's so different, we can't hear the applause. It's like it just brings so much life back into me that I just go, yeah, I gotta start creating that on my own. If I can't do it and I don't have an outlet to do it, like in New York or um literally in front of people. So I'm just trying to get, it's a learning process. I'm trying to get to a place too where I go, yeah, every day I'm doing something that's creative and is like fulfilling. Um but yeah, what have you been doing?
That's a good question. I feel like I have been falling back. I'm also a playwright, so I'm still able to write new plays right now, which is fantastic.
That's great.
And I can just get my roommates together and we can do a fun reading in our living room, which is wonderful. But also, like, I'm in an acting class right now, as I told you before we started this episode, and it's a hybrid class, so we're partially in person and partially online. And today, actually, we did performances for the first time, live theater coming back, where at least my group, we were half in person and half online. So me and my friend Isaiah were in a room with actual audience members watching. And then we had our two other group members over Zoom on this giant projector in the theater. And just being able to create, we had like adapted a children's story called The Oddment, which is like a creepy horror story about a blanket that won't leave a kid alone. And just being able to create something like that, albeit 6 feet apart in masks and like having to find all these creative ways to interact with each other. We had a lot of puppets and like other creative forms of conveying the story. But being able to create something like that, it was a little 10-minute production, was just so fulfilling and I loved it very much.
Oh,
Yeah, so just really appreciating like whatever forms of art we can create, whether it be writing new scripts or just coming together and creating anything at all, has really been getting me through, I think.
oh,
Yeah, it's been good. I
oh.
feel very lucky to have all these outlets to create. Of course, Playground as well has been a great outlet, and being able to work with those teams and see how they're developing the stories and how to use Zoom to our advantage, which has been very fun.
Yeah.
Um, Finding stories or finding ways that these stories can actually be told to their benefit with a virtual platform, which is super cool and
It's so
pretty
super cool.
awesome. Yeah, yeah.
Yay.
Yay! And speaking of Playground, if you all at home would like to continue to support artists who are persisting to create, you can check out the 12th Annual Playground Festival of Fresh Works. I've mentioned it so many times already in this episode, but basically it's a festival where we invite a trio of professional playwrights to develop their new plays for the Theater for Young Audiences canon. It's really remarkable. 2 readings have already gone up at this point, but our final fabulous reading of Ash and Feather by Sharon Francis is going up this Saturday, and you can reserve your free ticket at the link in our description for this video. So go on and click on that link and reserve your spot and come join us for an hour and see what's going on. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then, of course, if you want to keep up with our lovely guest, Courtney Reed over here, you can find her at Rhodes Reed on Instagram as well as on Twitter. I already follow her and it's an amazing experience. You're going to love it. So go check her out and see what she's up to. And also, she has a fun little gift prepared for you all. So go and check out that video. It is a separate video, but give it a look and continue to hang out with Courtney because I know that I do. So amazing. Yay. Thank you so much again for coming, Courtney. I really appreciate it. It made my day. And thank you all at home for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.